Bhakti-vriksha convention in Sri Lanka, Mayapur. This was actually an idea by HGKaunteyaPrabhu from Delhi. We are very thankful to him. The spirit of this convention
They want me to microphone. I'll try to be louder. मैं थोड़ा जोर का बोलता हूँ नहीं सुन सकते हैं नहीं तो वो रुक जाएगा उनका स्क्रीन सामने में डबल लगेगा
The spirit of this convention is to analyze the experiences we all have in the field of Bhakti-vriksha.
इसका जो हमारा भाव है इसके पीछे वो है कि सब अपने एक दूसरे के साथ
The idea of Bhakti-vriksha is in ISKCON since about 15 years. So today we'll hear from different protagonists, from different preachers, about their adventures, about their realizations, and we'll also start thinking together about how to overcome the challenges that we all face. So in other words, the focus is twofold: learning from the past and thinking about the future. And more or less this will be the theme today, Saturday, August 18, learning from the past, present experiences, and tomorrow thinking also about the future. So we'll start with this presentation, Bhakti-vriksha, the first 15 years, which is an introduction. So first of all, the obvious question, what is Bhakti-vriksha? In our context, by Bhakti-vriksha, we mean a small group of devotees who come together to do sadhu sangha, to chant the holy names, to inspire each other to chant better japa, to help each other to understand the philosophy, and also how to apply the philosophy in their life, also how to inspire each other to broadcast, to propagate Krishna consciousness to others. And the idea is that these groups will start small, but by bringing new people, they will grow. And then there will be a time in which they will prepare to multiply. And from this original group, two groups will manifest. So it will be a community that grows exponentially. Not necessarily with this architecture, but you get the idea. So this is the idea of Bhakti-vriksha. And where the idea came from? Who introduced it in ISKCON? It is Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj. Here is presenting a second edition of the Bhakti-vriksha manual in Spanish. Jayapataka Maharaj is traveling right now. He had an important meeting in Mumbai. He's traveling back to Mayapur today. We have a program with him in the evening, 7:30, at the Panchatattva Extension Hall. He really wants to be present. In fact, he asks that the whole convention would be on the phone so that he can listen. Did we arrange that?
जयप्रदा महाराज बहुत उत्साहित
He really asked this morning that whatever is discussed here, he wants to hear while he's traveling. So he introduced the idea, and as many of you know, he has been dealing with congregational development for many years, more than 30 years in Islam. At the same time, specifically, he was appointed by the GBC as monitor of the Congregational Development Petal of the Srila Prabhupada Centennial. Many of you remember the Centennial, 1996. There were many initiatives that were represented by petals. And each petal had a coordinator. For the petal of Congregational Development, Jagtaka Maharaj was in charge. And part of his service was to find out what other groups, other religious groups are doing in the field of congregational development. How are we doing in the speaking? Good? Good? Shamasundar was good, huh?
What they are saying is, Prabhuji, that you are doing very quickly, so there is no gap between them, so they can't.
Am I doing very quickly? I thought I was going very slow.
That is what you can't listen slowly also. बहुत देर तक धीरे चलेंगे तो फिर हमारा प्रोग्राम रात के 10 बजे खत्म हो जाता है। कभी टाइम।
So,
जिस प्रयास करें अंतिम में समझे।
Jagtaka Maharaj asked many people, and among all these people, he asked also his mother. The late Mother Lorraine. She actually, Srila Prabhupada said, she was a devotee. She came to Mayapur. She met Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur. And she was also a very active Christian lady. So Maharaj asked her, what is happening in the Christian world? Something dynamic in the realm of congregational development. So she gave him a book, this book. Where do we go from here? A guidebook for the Self-Group Church by Ralph Neighbor Jr.
Where do we go from there?
He is one of the leaders in the Christian world for this idea of cell groups. In other words, not based on building on the church building, but a small group called cell groups. So, this book is very interesting. We have it also in our library in the ministry office if you want to read it. So we started getting more books, started learning different ideas. But immediately it became a process of rediscovery. In other words, by searching our tradition, Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, we found that many of those ideas are already since many years, hundreds of years, in our own tradition. For instance, we rediscovered the chapters in the Adilila Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that talk about Bhakti-vriksha, the tree of bhakti, the tree of devotion. There Bhakti-vriksha is described as the whole movement of Lord Chaitanya.
प्रकार से समझाया गया
There are 9 groups, the senior sannyasis to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is himself the trunk.
लॉर्ड चैतन्य पेड़ की
And the 2 main branches are Nityananda Prabhu and Advaita Char.
उसकी जो तने हैं वो नित्यानंद प्रभु हैं.
And these 3 transcendental trees spread all over the world.
और ये वृक्ष जो है सारे संसार के अंदर फैल रहा है.
Srila Prabhupada says that ISKCON is one of the branches of this tree.
और श्री प्रभुपाद कहते हैं कि ISKCON जो है इसी वृक्ष की एक शाखा है.
And in this tree, as you can see, everybody participates
और इस वृक्ष के अंदर सब के सब लोग व्यक्ति
in enjoying the fruits and in distributing the fruits.
और इस वृक्ष के जो फल है इसके अंदर सभी के सभी लोग पार्टिसिपेट भी कर रहे हैं और इसका आनंद भी ले रहे हैं.
Lord Chaitanya is not only the trunk, the main trunk of the tree, he is also the gardener.
चैतन्य महाप्रभु जो है इसके मुख्य शाखा भी हैं और इसके माली भी हैं.
So he says, I am the only gardener, how many fruits I can eat?
चैतन्य महाप्रभु कह रहे हैं कि मैं तो केवल एक माली हूं, मैं कितने फल खा सकता हूं?
How many fruits I can distribute?
और मैं कितने फल बांट सकता हूं?
Therefore, I order every human being in this world to accept this Krishna conscious movement and distribute to others.
इसलिए वो सबको आदेश देते हैं कि आप इस कृष्ण भावना भावित के फलों का सारे विश्व के अंदर बांटें, सबको बांटें, सबको प्रचार.
And of course, in this process of rediscovery, we found, for instance, that Lord Chaitanya himself spoke about small groups.
तो लॉर्ड चैतन्य महाप्रभु भी जो हैं इस प्रकार से छोटे-छोटे समूहों की बात करते हैं.
For instance, here in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavata Madhya Kanda, chapter 23, he says, gather together 5 or 10 in your own homes, clap hands and sing kirtan of these holy names.
और चैतन्य भागवत के 23वें स्कंद के 79 में 81 में वो कहते हैं कि आप 5 और 10 के समूह में इकट्ठे हुए
Gathering at home with parents, wife and children, please sing kirtan in this way. So this idea of small groups was always within our tradition. These are just ideas. You could get into Srila Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, you could get into so many more quotes. But just to give some idea. Then we also found very important Srila Prabhupada instructions about how to live as a home-based devotee. For instance, in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 21st chapter, text 31st, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says,
see, when it's there, you can translate it.
Yes, let's see. A person who is a householder but is initiated by a sannyasi has the duty to spread Krishna consciousness at home. As far as possible, he should call his friends and neighbors to his house and hold classes. How many of you are in this category? You are householders but initiated by a sannyasi. How many of you are householders initiated by sannyasi? The vast majority here. So this is, in one sense, is the seed of Bhakti-vriksha. When everybody takes responsibility, brings people, these people will also become devotees. These people will also become initiated, and they will also start doing the same in their houses. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 728 in the purport, the Prabhupada say, one should stay at home, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and preach the instructions of Krishna. Stay at home means one should not abruptly change. One should not escape his own duties. Of course, chanting Hare Krishna we know, but this idea also of becoming a preacher, sometimes we have not always been very clear in our mind. So in Bhakti-vriksha, we want everybody to do this. stay at home, chant Hare Krishna, and also preach. And when people come, teach them the same. Very simple action. Then, for instance, there is this letter in 72. We want every house to be a temple. Not that our place should be the only place for the people to come. No, this should be the process. That they learn at our place, then establish the same thing at home. In other words, temples are places where we should take inspiration, where we should take education, training, and then replicate the same thing from our homes and make our homes into temples. So a beautiful cooperation can be there.
इस प्रकार से मंदिर और गृहस्थों के बीच में बहुत आपस में संबंध और कॉपरेशन हो सकता है.
Bhakti-vriksha, imagine a tree. Bhakti-vriksha can be planted in a place where there is no temple.
Bhakti-vriksha ऐसे स्थान में क्यों
like the Middle East,
ना हो.
you cannot have temples.
Middle East. हमारे जो
The Bhakti-vriksha can be planted directly by the temple. Can be supervised directly by the temple. Or sometimes, like for instance, Hyderabad, the temple naturally is directly involved in the supervision of the Bhakti-vriksha. Or sometimes can be alongside the temple, like in Moscow. There are temples, but there is also Bhakti-vriksha. There are autonomous entities and they cooperate. It's not that one depends on the other. So then in this process of discovery, in this process of study, at one point the ministry published the Bhakti-vriksha manual. It came out in February 1998. The manual came out. How many of you read the manual?
कितने लोगों ने ये पढ़ा है मैनुअल? अपना हाथ खड़ा करें. कितने लोगों ने मैनुअल पढ़ा है?
Okay. So we have later translated into Hindi, Bengali,
और बाकी अलग-अलग भाषाओं में भी अनुवाद किया गया है.
Russian, Chinese,
language,
Serbo-Croatian, Hungarian, and different other than Spanish, and so on.
और भी अनेक भाषाओं में इसका अनुवाद हुआ.
We also had a new edition, just came out a few months ago.
और इसका एक
expanded of the Bhakti-vriksha manual.
हाँ जी है.
Then more materials, more publications came. One thing we produced as a ministry is the 5-day Bhakti-vriksha course. And we started in 1998, presenting 5 full days to explain Bhakti-vriksha.
1998 में 5 दिन का भक्ति-vriksha कोर्स ही बनाया गया.
It was presented for the first time in Russia.
और सबसे पहले इसको रशिया में दिखाया.
Then in America. Then in Europe.
यूरोप में.
We had, for instance, one edition in Radhadesh, Belgium.
बेल्जियम में.
That time we had
राधादेश.
devotees from 13 different countries.
14 अलग-अलग देशों से वहाँ पर भक्त एकत्रित हुए.
Purnamasi Mataji was there from Portugal. So she's still around. So that was 98, I believe, right? Many places in Asia, 5-day course in Japan, Indonesia, the Philippines, and so on.
और एशियन कंट्रीज में भी, एशियन देशों में भी.
In South and West Africa.
South और West Africa.
Then in South and Central America.
South और Central America में.
And many other places in full or partial version. So there was this process of presenting the idea to the world. And of course, some people took it up, this idea, immediately.
कई लोगों ने इसके विचार को immediately इसको पसंद किया.
Others took a little more time.
कईयों ने इसमें थोड़ा समय लिया इसको समझने में.
Then more publication, more BD publication came. We are very grateful to Prabhu Padmini Mataji, who wrote the book Free to Preach. How many of you read this book? Okay, this is also
आपने कितने लोगों ने ये वाली
translated
किताब पढ़ी है Pray to Preach?
in Russian, Chinese, so many languages. You read it in Chinese?
Is this book available in Hindi also?
In Hindi, is there?
It's not been translated in English?
Not yet.
Not yet. अभी translated हुआ है.
But she's working on a new edition, right? Because this was written some 10 years ago. So she, in these last 10 years, she has many more experience. So we will wait for the next edition, I guess. She explains her experience with her husband, HGKaunteyaPrabhu. This was the first time an entire yatra adopted the Bhakti-vriksha as a model. After this presentation, we hear from them. Then books like the Book of Icebreakers came out, and so on. So then finally there was even a GBC resolution. It became ISKCON law. Law 15.2.2, annual doubling of the congregation. ISKCON temples should try to annually double their congregation by training and empowering the congregation through small local Namahatta Bhakti-vriksha branch groups, also known also as Krishna conscious self-group, Bhakti Sangha, etc. So at this point, at least officially, Bhakti-vriksha was accepted as an authorized program. Not only authorized, but even encouraged by the GBC.
इस प्रकार से ये जो प्रोग्राम है धीरे-धीरे इसको जीबीसी ने भी इसको सपोर्ट दिया है.
So this is a short history of what happened.
और इस प्रकार से इसका इतिहास है किस प्रकार से हमारा भक्ति वृक्ष ये कार्यक्रम आगे बढ़ रहा है.
Next section, I want to talk briefly about 15 challenges that they were there in establishing these ideas.
अब हम थोड़े इसके हमारे आगे हमारे इस पे क्या-क्या हमारे को तकलीफ आएगी और हमारे क्या-क्या दिखते हैं उस पर हम समस्याओं पर इसकी
These are not in particular order.
चर्चा करेंगे.
And some may be relevant for a place, not for another place.
ये हो सकता है एक जगह के लिए लागू हो.
But this is what we have observed in different parts of the world.
लेकिन हमने अलग-अलग जगह पर इनको
as challenges, obstacles to this idea. So we'll take a look briefly, maybe 1 or 2 minutes each. Challenge number 1, lack of specialists. In other words, we could say lack of leadership in congregational development.
पहला जो है हमने जो चीज़ महसूस की है कि हमारे पास जो है
In ISKCON, we have many devotees engaged in some standard services, like say deity worship or book distribution. So when you talk about these things, there are many people who are already doing that. But when you talk about congregational development, developing a community, especially home-based community, there were not many people doing as their service. Many there were managers, but developing the community, the congregation was not really their priority. They were doing other things. So this was the first challenge, to find an audience. People were interested that this is my service. Because everybody else, even very good about it, had other services. I remember in some temples we did the course, and often the leader of the place or the leader of the temple was not there in the course, and mostly they were young devotees, bhaktas, bhaktins, and even though they liked the idea of Bhakti-vriksha, of these groups expanding, but they really didn't have the power to decide. They were already doing some other service. They could not just decide, okay, now I'll do Bhakti-vriksha. So this was a challenge. Second challenge, lack of dialogue. Lack of dialogue meaning that in ISKCON we talk about many things. Of course, mainly we should talk about Krishna. But we talk about many things. But often we don't talk much how to develop our congregations. We have many books. In ISKCON we are famous. We have many books. Commentaries of the Acharyas, philosophy, this, that, biographies. Once I was in Belgium, Bangladesh, and they have a big library, a book shop, the biggest in Europe, ISKCON bookshop. And I was there, I saw so many books on so many things. But the section of community development was a very small little section, 3-4 books. And most of it was from our ministry. Sometimes when you go in Christian bookshops, especially those who do self-church, you find so many books talking about how to manage these groups, how to train a leader. So many books. So there was a lack of dialogue in the general society. And so that was another challenge. The people did not really talk about this thing very much. Sometimes we talk about this controversy, or this scandal, or this issue, that issue, but there was not much talk about, okay, how we organize and empower our communities. Number 3, fear of losing control. Some people understood Bhakti-vriksha, that would be meant to empower people from just spectators or passive participants. They will become very active. They will take leadership. They will become shelter for others. And so some people fear Bhakti-vriksha, because it means that I'm not anymore the only one, the boss who says everything and everybody follows. There will be others. There will be group leaders, Chakrabartis, and they all have some influence. So this was another challenge. Challenge 4. Some people thought Bhakti-vriksha only works with Indians. I remember one American leader once told me, said, look, because at the time already some countries were doing Bhakti-vriksha, they had success. But he told me, look, I want to see it done with white people. And when I see it done with white people, then I'll take it up. Obviously, if everybody thinks like that, nobody will ever do it, right? Because if everybody waits for the other person, nobody will ever do it. Fortunately, this was also resolved when Russia started becoming very big. We have more than 350 groups in Russia now. These are not Indians. These are white Russians. But it was a challenge. Then another challenge was the lack of skills. Sometimes people try to do Bhakti-vriksha, but just didn't know how to do it. I remember one place, one country in the Southeast Asia, one group leader, very nice mood. I was there as a guest, and I was just observing. I was not leading the discussion. So he started the discussion. We read the verse of Bhagavad Gita, the purport, and then sitting near me there was a new person, first time in the group. So the group leader, very nice mood, smiling, sweet, but he really didn't know how to ask questions for leading the discussion. So he started looking at this new person and said, after the verse, he said, so what do you think? Person really, I could see his face. What do I think? What am I supposed to think? What kind of question? What do you think? No, what do you think? Generally, we know. We ask questions like, any interesting point you found? Any new idea? Anything is not clear? Things like that. And he kept insisting. So, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And the person kept being very embarrassed. He didn't know what to say. What do I think? Okay. What do I think? So, sometimes even people who wanted to do Bhakti-vriksha, they really did not know how to do it. That was a challenge. Another challenge is many people started thinking, oh, it's a JPS thing. It's a thing just for disciples of Jataka Maharaj. If you are Jataka Maharaj disciple or Jataka Maharaj fanatic, then Bhakti-vriksha is for you. If you are initiated by another guru, it's not for you. Fortunately, now in the world there are many devotees that are doing Bhakti-vriksha. They are now disciples of Jataka Maharaj. Jataka Maharaj serves as a guru, serves as a GBC, but he also serves as the minister for Congregational development. So obviously, the models he promoted is not just for his disciples. Anyway, this was another challenge. How many of you are not initiated by Jataka Maharaj? How many of you are not initiated? See? It's about 50%. So we can conclude that Bhakti-vriksha is not a JPS thing. So we are bringing Srila Prabhupada now, it seems. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai 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 As you saw in the GBC resolution, ISKCON law, it's a GBC law, it's a GBC resolution encouraging everybody to do Bhakti-vriksha. Challenge 7, infertile environment. So then, the Bhakti-vriksha, we attempt to plan the Bhakti-vriksha in a place where it really was really hard. Because, again, either there was no congregational development, either there was a hostile environment, so sometimes it was very hard to plan the idea. It really didn't take root. Challenge 8, resistant to change. This is a natural human tendency. Even when something good is offered, we human beings tend to resist. We think we have done this so many years, why do we need to change? What if something bad happens? This happens with all new ideas. There are studies. See, for instance, this chart. There is a little percentage of people who are the innovators. Can you read that? Little percentage. Those are pioneers. They see the potential. They take the idea. Nobody has ever done, but they know this is a good idea. Then there is a... these are just an indication. Don't take perfectly the numbers. Then there are early adopters. Still is a new idea, but some people adopt it early in the game, early in the cycle. Then there are early majority. It becomes a common idea, but so some people, also more people come on board. Then there is the late majority, and what they call the laggards. The laggards means they never come on board. Even if they think that they're around, say, well, I don't know, you know, when I was young, I never saw Bhakti-vriksha, so I don't trust. Anyway, there are some people who never convince. It's the same idea. It's a different percentage, but it's the same idea. So this is a natural human tendency. We resist change. And so we face that also. Challenge 9, wrong characterizations. Sometimes people just gave names to Bhakti-vriksha. They say, for instance, say, well, Bhakti-vriksha just to make new devotees. This other system is to care for devotees. Like, you all know, you cannot run Bhakti-vriksha unless you care for your members, right? You cannot just make devotees. If you don't care for them, they won't stay. So sometimes this kind of mottos, a little bit denigrating, are there in the ether. Bhakti-vriksha is like this, Bhakti-vriksha is like that. It's like not really understanding the point. Challenge 9. This is a fact. Bhakti-vriksha is difficult. It's a fact. Done properly, Bhakti-vriksha, there are so many elements. Like you need light. To do Bhakti-vriksha properly, you need to apply so many things. The group meeting should be pleasant, should be a good experience for everybody. There should be some preaching, some cultivation. There should be some training of new leaders. There should be the right mood. There should be a good organization because you need to supervise all these groups. So it's not easy. Especially to start and develop it. More or less say 2-3 groups anybody can have in the world. 2-3 groups. So when you start having 10, 15, 20, 50, not easy. You need to have good leadership. You need to have good organization, good communication. So this was a challenge. Bhakti-vriksha is difficult. Are we going to have the electricity back sometime?
5 minutes.
Okay. So we are talking about challenge. One more challenge.
Challenge for you to speak loudly now.
Okay. So I go on because we don't have much time to stop, really. Challenge 11. Anything was called Bhakti-vriksha. At one point, we saw in many places in the world, people had any type of group. People had any type of group, and they call anything Bhakti-vriksha. I give you an example. Last year I was in Detroit, Michigan, in the States. They had a group, very nice group, devotees, friends. They were going on since 7 years. It was a Bhagavad Gita study group. They never invited new people. They never done any of the Bhakti-vriksha steps. They were studying Bhagavad Gita, great, but it was not the Bhakti-vriksha. But they were calling it Bhakti-vriksha. And then they realized that it was not a Bhakti-vriksha. See, you saw sometimes these imitation brands. No? Adidas is the real thing. So when they change it, Adibas, Adidas, Adadas. Just call anything. Something that sounds like Adidas, but it's not. So sometimes it became like this. Many groups were calling Bhakti-vriksha, but were not Bhakti-vrikshas. So as a result, they did not get the result. They did not get the result of Bhakti-vriksha. The groups were not multiplying, they were not growing. It's just like if you want the result of wearing Adidas, original Adidas, because you want some prestige, but then you wear Abibas, people make fun of you. So unless it's the real thing, it does not work. Okay. Now, challenge what? Not applying the system. There is a right way, there are wrong way. There is room for flexibility, but there are some principles. Some flexibility is there. Like we hear today from other presenters. Some of you use 64 weeks cycles. Some of you use 72-week cycles. So there is room for difference, but some principles must be there. I remember one lady in Germany. She came to me here in Mayapur, and she said she was she wanted to really do Bhakti-vriksha, but she didn't know how to do it. So she said to me, Prabhu, my group is not growing. So then I asked him, but do you invite new people? She said, no. How the group is going to grow if you don't bring new people? Because sometimes people really didn't get the idea, no? So this was another challenge. I mean, you realize I could talk for hours about these things, but these are just ideas. Huh? How many of you so far found some challenge which sounded familiar? How many of you found some familiar ideas here? Okay, some of you got similar ideas. Then the challenge 13, temple-centric mood. Sometimes some people would just think that anything outside the temple is bonus. There was one temple president in Italy, and curiously enough, he was a HGKaunteya disciple, and he banned Bhakti-vriksha in his city. He banned it. He said, if you want to meet, you have to meet in the temple. It's a true story. So, sometimes we have this mood, sometimes it's if it's outside the temple, it's bad. Okay, two more. I hope you're not getting depressed. At the end today, we'll ask you to write down what challenge you must be faced or what challenge you face. So tomorrow we'll discuss it. Okay? Challenge 14, lack of support. Yeah, sometimes people try, but they were maybe in remote places. Maybe they didn't have many people to help, to visit, to train, to give them enthusiasm. They found so many obstacles that they gave up. And challenge 15 is sometimes the lack of structure. Even those who have done some Bhakti-vriksha, grew up to 7, 8 groups, 10 groups, sometimes they fail to create a supervision. Without supervision, these groups become very weak. If they are not connected, maybe a group leader changes his job, leaves the country, the whole group collapses. Unless we have a structure, a supervision, you cannot really develop a big tree. So sometimes this is also another challenge. So these are some ideas. There are other challenges we have experienced. So this was just an introduction of the first 15 years of Bhakti-vriksha, how we came to this idea, what challenges we faced, you faced, in different parts of the world, But obviously Bhakti-vriksha survived, and now we are here at the first Bhakti-vriksha convention. We have so many Bhakti-vrikshas in the world now, some place more than 100. So Bhakti-vriksha works, is going strong, is making many devotees, is making many leaders, and is giving support to many temples. So Bhakti-vriksha ki jai, yes.
इतने सारे हमारे मंदिर हैं जहाँ पर इतने समूह चल रहे हैं, आप देख सकते हैं, और बहुत सारे भक्त बन रहे हैं, और इस प्रकार से मंदिर में बहुत सारे भक्त लोग हैं.
So thank you for your attention. This was the first presentation of this convention.